Have you ever looked at your phone, wondering why he never called back, even though the date seemed perfect? Or maybe you've been chatting with someone online for weeks, only to have the conversation fade into silence without warning. If any of that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Dating after 60 can feel like stepping into a brand new world with rules no one handed you. But here's the thing. You are not too old for love. You are not too late. And no, you haven't missed your chance. In fact, you might be wiser, more beautiful, and more ready than ever. But to find the connection you deserve, there are a few things we need to talk about. Mistakes that even the strongest, most thoughtful women fall into. These aren't just little slip-ups. They're costly mistakes that can leave you feeling confused, discouraged, and even heartbroken. So let's talk about them. Not to criticize, but to empower. Because once you know how to avoid these traps, dating becomes a whole lot more hopeful and a lot more fun. Let me ask you something. Have you ever gone on a date and within minutes found yourself sharing your entire life story? Where you grew up, how your marriage ended, what your kids are doing now, and maybe even the last time your heart was broken. It feels natural, right? After all, at this age we've lived a lot of life. But here's the first mistake. Oversharing too soon. Now don't get me wrong. Your story matters. You've earned every chapter of your life, and you should be proud of it. But early on, especially in those first few dates, what you're really doing is creating space for something new. And when we fill that space with too much too soon, we can overwhelm the very person we're hoping to connect with. Think about it this way. When someone meets you for the first time, they're not just listening to what you say. They're trying to feel what it might be like to build something new with you. If you bring your past into the room too heavily, it can feel like there's no room left for a future, especially if those stories are full of pain, resentment, or unresolved emotion. Instead of diving headfirst into everything you've lived through, try starting with who you are today. What lights you up now? What do you enjoy on the weekends? What kind of life are you hoping to share? Those are the things that spark curiosity, that invite someone in gently and warmly. And once trust is built, there will be plenty of time to share the deeper pieces of your journey. Let's move to something else I see far too often: settling too quickly. I know the temptation. You meet someone nice. He's polite. He seems to enjoy your company. He calls when he says he will. And even though there's no real spark, no deep laughter, no butterflies, you tell yourself, maybe this is just what dating at my age looks like now. No, my friend. That's not what love looks like. That's what loneliness can trick us into accepting. You see, when we've been alone for a long time, whether due to divorce, widowhood, or just life pulling us in other directions, we can get used to the quiet. And when someone finally comes along and breaks that silence, even a little, we can convince ourselves it's more than it is. But here's the truth. You are not too old to wait for someone who truly makes you feel alive again. Don't confuse consistency with compatibility. Just because someone shows up doesn't mean they're right for you. You deserve chemistry. You deserve joy. You deserve someone who sees the woman you are today, not just a companion to pass time with, but a partner who values your mind, your heart, and your soul. I want you to think back to a time in your life when you compromised too much, gave more than you received, or stayed in something that didn't feed your spirit. And then ask yourself, is that the love I want now? Because the love we choose after 60 should be the most honest, most fulfilling love of our lives. And that kind of love doesn't come from settling. It comes from standing tall in who you are, knowing what you bring to the table, and being willing to walk away from anything that doesn't feel like peace. Now let's talk about another tricky place where smart, capable women can get tripped up: mistaking attention for intention. This one's subtle, but it can leave a mark if we're not paying attention. Just because a man is charming, complimentary, or even flirtatious doesn't mean he's serious. Sometimes we meet men who love the idea of romance, who enjoy the chase, the dinners, the texting, but they aren't truly available for a relationship. Emotionally, they're still tied to someone else. Or maybe they just don't want anything deeper than a casual connection. But because their words sound sweet and their actions seem caring, at least in the beginning, we believe it must be leading somewhere. And when it fizzles out, we're left asking ourselves, what did I do wrong? The truth is, you probably didn't do anything wrong. You were just listening to his words instead of watching his consistency. A man with real intention doesn't leave you guessing. He doesn't disappear for days or cancel plans at the last minute. He follows through. He listens. He invests. And you never have to chase his attention or decode his behavior. So don't settle for breadcrumbs when what you want is a whole meal. What's important here is to trust your intuition. You know when something feels off. You know when a man is saying all the right things, but something inside you feels unsettled. That feeling? That's wisdom. That's your experience speaking. Honor it. And remember, your time and your energy are sacred. You've spent a lifetime caring for others, showing up, holding things together. Now it's time for someone to show up for you. So if his actions don't match his words, don't explain it away. Don't try to fix it. Just walk away, with your head high and your heart protected. Now that we've opened up a few of these common mistakes, let's keep going. There's more to uncover, and more ways we can protect our hearts while staying open to real love. You know, it's one thing to want love again. It's another to let yourself truly believe you deserve it. And that brings me to something that often hides beneath the surface: apologizing for wanting companionship. It doesn't always sound like a literal apology. Sometimes it's the way we downplay our desires. We say things like, "Oh, I'm fine on my own," or "At my age, I can't be too picky." But deep down, we're hoping someone sees us, hears us, chooses us. There's no shame in wanting connection, wanting to be held, wanting to be known. Those longings don't make you needy. They make you human. And too many women shrink themselves, emotionally or even physically, thinking they need to seem low maintenance to be lovable. But love, real love, isn't about fitting into someone's life like an accessory. It's about building something side by side with honesty, clarity, and courage. So please, don't silence your heart just to seem agreeable. You're allowed to want depth, loyalty, romance, and laughter that makes your stomach hurt. You're allowed to say, "I want more," without apology. Because the right person won't be intimidated by your standards. He'll be grateful for them. He'll rise to meet them. Now let's talk about something that's more common than most of us care to admit: ignoring your gut when red flags start waving. Maybe he talks over you in conversations. Maybe he's a little too pushy, or dismisses your opinions, or jokes in ways that don't sit right with you. But you smile through it. You make excuses. He's just old-fashioned. Maybe I'm being too sensitive. You're not. By the time we're 60, we've learned how to sit through a lot of discomfort. We've learned how to hold the peace, to be the understanding one, to stay polite. But in dating, especially now, that instinct to be nice can lead us straight into situations that drain us, confuse us, or even hurt us. You don't owe anyone a second date just because they were polite. You don't have to finish dinner with someone who makes you feel uneasy. And you certainly don't have to keep talking to someone who disrespects your time or your boundaries. Your gut, the one that's been sharpened by decades of life experience, is not a drama queen. She's your best friend. Listen to her. Sometimes the red flags are quiet. It's not what he says, it's how you feel afterward. Drained, questioning yourself, a little smaller than before. That's all the information you need. Dating isn't about proving you can endure discomfort. It's about protecting your peace and making room for someone who adds to it. Let's take a breath here, because I know this next one might hit close to home. It's about holding on to who we used to be, instead of celebrating who we are now. And I see this especially when it comes to appearance and self-worth. Maybe you've caught yourself looking in the mirror, thinking, would anyone even find me attractive at this age? Or maybe you scroll through dating profiles and see men your age chasing women 20 years younger and wonder if you've become invisible. Let me tell you something loud and clear. You are not invisible. You carry grace, wisdom, strength, and stories that younger women haven't even begun to live through. You've walked through storms and still show up with kindness. You've loved deeply, given generously, and built a life brick by brick. That beauty doesn't fade, it deepens. But if we don't believe we're still worthy of being cherished, we begin to show up that way. We settle. We shrink. We stop making eye contact or dressing in ways that make us feel good. And slowly, we start dating like we're lucky to be chosen by anyone, instead of recognizing that we get to do the choosing too. So take care of yourself, not for them, but for you. Wear the lipstick if it makes you feel radiant. Laugh loud. Move your body. Nourish your skin, your mind, your spirit. Not because it wins anyone over, but because it reminds you that you're alive, vibrant, and still fully in the game. I know it can feel awkward putting yourself out there again. The dating apps, the texting, the dinners that sometimes feel more like interviews than connection. But here's the truth. Confidence doesn't come from waiting until you feel flawless. It comes from showing up anyway, with your soft heart and steady courage and saying, "Here I am, as I am, and I'm still worth knowing." And while we're on the topic of showing up, let me share something I've learned the hard way. Sometimes we think we have to play it cool. Wait a certain number of hours to text back. Act like we're not that interested. Pretend we're too busy to care. That kind of emotional game playing, it's exhausting. And more importantly, it keeps you from connecting with someone who's ready for honesty. If you like someone, let it show. If you want to spend more time with them, say so. You don't need to be aloof to be respected. In fact, your vulnerability, the quiet way you care, the softness in your voice when you speak from the heart, that's exactly what makes someone fall for you. The right person doesn't need mystery. They need truth. So give yourself permission to be real. To say, "I had a lovely time," or "I'm interested in seeing where this goes." You're not a teenager anymore. You don't have to play hard to get. You just have to be willing to be seen, and that takes more courage than any game ever could. And before we go any further, let me say this, because it matters deeply. If you've been hurt, ghosted, lied to, or led on, especially after putting your heart out there again, I'm so sorry. I know how deeply that can cut. At this stage of life, we expect a little more honesty, a little more maturity. And when it doesn't come, it can make you question everything. But don't let one person's inconsistency make you doubt your worth. Don't let one disappointment keep you from trying again. You have every right to want love. And you have every right to protect your peace while looking for it. You're not naive for hoping. You're brave. And as long as you keep showing up, fully, kindly, and honestly, you're already winning in a world where many people have given up. So breathe deep, keep your chin up, and let's keep walking forward. There are still beautiful moments ahead. Connections that will surprise you. Laughter that feels brand new. A hand to hold that fits just right. And it all starts with choosing not to give up on love, no matter your age. There's something quietly powerful about a woman who knows what she wants and says it. And yet, one of the most common mistakes I've seen women make, even the strongest ones, is being unclear about their intentions. Maybe it feels awkward to bring up the relationship talk. Maybe you worry it will scare someone off or make things feel too serious too soon. But here's the truth. Clarity isn't pressure. It's respect. For you. For them. For your time. Imagine investing your heart, your evenings, your energy into someone who seems promising, only to discover months later that he wasn't looking for anything real. That he was just passing time. It's a painful wake-up call, but one that can be avoided with one simple but brave question. What are you looking for? And if the answer isn't aligned with your own hopes, believe it the first time. You don't need to twist yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone. Being clear doesn't make you demanding. It makes you mature. When you say, "I'm looking for a real connection," or "I'd love a partner to share this chapter of life with," you're not being needy, you're being intentional. And the right person will appreciate that honesty. In fact, they'll match it. On the flip side, don't be afraid to tell someone if you're not ready for a deep commitment yet. Maybe you're still healing, maybe you just want companionship for now. That's okay too. What matters is that you're not leaving anyone guessing. Because mixed signals create unnecessary pain, especially at this age when time feels more precious than ever. And while we're on the subject of time and clarity, let's talk about one more mistake that may seem small, but carries weight: neglecting self-care. I know it might sound superficial. We're not 20 anymore. We've got lines, stories etched in our skin, and hips that don't move quite the way they used to. But none of that means we stop showing up for ourselves. In fact, now is the time to take better care than ever, not because we're chasing youth, but because we're honoring the life we've built. Self-care is how we say, "I still matter." It's brushing your hair before a date, putting on a blouse that makes you feel lovely, moving your body a little each day. It's making choices that remind you that you are still vibrant, still growing, still deserving of joy. I once knew a woman, Ellen, who used to say, "At this age, no one cares what I wear anymore." And I gently told her, "Maybe so, but how do you feel when you look in the mirror?" That moment changed everything for her. She started putting on earrings again, lipstick. She signed up for a dance class, not to meet someone, but because it made her feel alive. That's the heart of self-care. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about sending yourself the message, "I'm still here. I'm still worth effort." And believe me, people notice. Confidence isn't about having flawless skin or a tiny waist. It's in how you carry yourself. It's in the energy you bring to the table, the way you smile, the sparkle in your eye when you laugh. So if you've let yourself slip into the habit of saying, "It doesn't matter anymore," I challenge you, gently but firmly, to flip the script. Start with something small. A walk in the morning. A favorite scent. A blouse you haven't worn in a while. You'll be surprised how quickly those little things can shift your spirit. And now, as we bring this conversation to a close, I want to leave you with something I hope stays in your heart long after the screen goes dark. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are not invisible. You are a woman who has lived, loved, lost, and risen again. And the fact that you're still open to love, still willing to try, still holding on to hope, that is a beautiful kind of courage. One that deserves to be seen, respected, and cherished. Don't let disappointment make you bitter. Let it make you wiser. Don't let loneliness make you settle. Let it make you clearer about what you truly want. And when you meet someone who makes you feel safe, seen, and special, don't hold back. Let yourself be loved. Because love after 60 isn't a second prize. It isn't what's left over. It's something entirely different. It's slower, yes, but deeper. It's quieter, but more honest. It's not about completing you. It's about walking side by side with someone who sees the beauty in your now, not just your then. So take that step. Say yes to the coffee date. Message him back. Or simply open your heart a little wider, just enough for possibility to slip in. And if this video spoke to you, if it reminded you of your own strength, your own worth, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. You're not alone. And sometimes, your story might help another woman feel a little less alone too. If you found this video helpful, give it a like. Share it with a friend who might need to hear these words. And don't forget to subscribe to Strong Elderly Life for more conversations like this, because your best days aren't behind you. They're just beginning. Here's to love that feels like home. Here's to joy that doesn't need an explanation. And here's to living your fullest life, one bold, beautiful step at a time. Take care of yourself and keep your heart open. You've earned it.